Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jonah. I'm gonna hop on here as well, and I'm gonna give some words because you can't ignore this. You can't ignore the passion that used to exist for something, and just completely just throw it under the rug. I miss it too. I miss it too, and it is a two-way street. It's not just Brady. I also miss it tremendously. I've hit a point now, ever since Meta took us down, those bastards, where I've lived my life and I've just continued on with it. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. I was a barista for a month. I worked at a trampoline park for 5 months. While I was working at that trampoline park, I did affiliate marketing, kind of failed there. Then after that, I went into sales, which was relatively similar. Financial sales, I did that for 13 months. And then after that, I left, and then now I'm thinking to either study psychology or maybe go into film school, probably something into that realm. So my life is carried on, very similar to Brady's, and I've just completely lost touch of Survivor Hub games. It is something that I have thought about. I've thought about it a lot, but due to me adulting, I guess you could say, it hasn't been as much of a priority to bring it back because some may look at it and kind of view it as a little bit childish because you were dedicating a lot of time to it. And, not for nothing. When Brady and I were in high school, we were able to just consider this to be our hobby. We were full time students, and maybe we worked, maybe we didn't. I know personally I only did contract work during the summer when I was running hub games, when I worked at the summer camp, but in general, for the most part, we were students, and that created a lot more time to run something like this. But as I've become someone who's adulted a little bit more, I haven't exactly prioritized my hobbies at all. I was kind of just one of those Wall Street hounds, I guess you could say, dedicating a lot of time to just the grind and kind of losing sight over what I truly love. Not what society makes you love, but what I truly loved. And I think that's something that I've been tapping into a little bit more as of recently is what is Jonah Boyer actually truly interested in? What does Jonah Boyer actually genuinely want to do with his time and with his life? And as time goes on, you start to discover a little bit more what that truly is. So it's hard to ignore just how much I love Survivor. And I can go back so long ago to go over the passion I've had for Survivor for so long. After the fandom kind of died, during the fandom was at its peak, and before the fandom was even a thing, or at least when I was in it. So, before I discovered Survivor, I was already really into reality television, and a lot of the time I would mimic or act out similarly to some other reality TV shows, but then once I discovered Survivor, I never really went back to being interested in them. So the very, very first reality TV show that I really, really, really liked was American Ninja Warrior, which is more extreme challenges, I guess you could say, in the real show. They do have better challenges than Survivor does, but those are like genuine athletes. So maybe they should take a page out of their book, Survivor. I'm not sure. But that was the first show I was really interested in, and I was always really interested in, reality game shows. You have a whole bunch of contestants, and maybe only one person can win, and it's a competition, and people get eliminated every round throughout the game. That's always something that has appealed to me since the dawn of time. So American Ninja Warrior was the first thing that I really, really liked. I only had one episode recorded on the VCR. We didn't have any streaming services, anything like that. I didn't even have YouTube when I originally was looking into it. Eventually, I got YouTube later on. I just thought it was like the biggest treat at that point in time. Whereas now we completely take social media entirely for granted. It's one of the reasons why happiness can sometimes dissipate through age. Because when you're a child, you just appreciate everything so much more all of the time. But when you're an adult, you tend not to appreciate the little things as much as maybe you used to. So American Ninja Warrior, that was the first show that I was very, very invested in. But yeah, that one show. I just had the last show of the series just recorded, and I just watched it over and over again. My mom was like, "Oh, you'll like this show. You should watch this." And I was just like watching it over and over again until finally the next season hit. I remember before the next season hit, my mom deleted it as a punishment, and I like freaked out. It was a full blown temper tantrum of mine. So I really liked that show. It was the first introduction that I had to reality television in any way, shape, or form. And then once the season started to roll out, I really did like it. I was creating my own challenges in the backyard. Even I was going to the park, all the different playgrounds, and I was changing and distorting the way how you're supposed to use the equipment there to create my own challenges, my own obstacle courses. So American Ninja Warrior was the first reality show that I really liked. I morphed a little bit more into game shows, like game shows, if you know what I mean. Family Feud, Jeopardy, The Price is Right, Deal or No Deal, etc., etc. I got into that a little bit more when I was about 12 years old. But America's Got Talent was also the next show. When I was I think 10, I was starting to get into that, and I would watch American Ninja Warrior and America's Got Talent. Those are like my two big shows that I really, really liked, and I was very, very invested in them. And America's Got Talent, I also really liked. It was basically like the perfect show for basically anyone can put on a show, and it's elimination. You find the true stars, and you're discovering new people. I really liked that. So reality TV was something that I was always very interested in since the dawn of time. And of course, it would have been really cool if I had discovered Survivor at the age of maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, because I think I would have loved it. I genuinely think I would have loved it. It's like the ultimate survival show, and I think I would have really, really liked it and would have been very invested in it. But yeah, that wasn't the case. I discovered Survivor when I was 12, might have even been 13. But American Ninja Warrior and America's Got Talent, I was very, very invested in, and around the age of 12, that's when I got more into game shows like The Price is Right and Family Feud, and I was a lot more interested into things like that. I got the Price is Right Wii game, and I would play it over and over again. I figured out the whole game, played it so much that literally all the prices and of the items that were there, I just memorized, and I just rigged the whole game. But Family Feud, I was watching a lot of that, and when I was in the 6th grade, I practically abandoned academic excellence. So I was dedicating more time to my, rather than dedicating time to homework, I was dedicating times to creating these games, these Family Feud games, and I was hosting them with my 4 friends, 2 teams of 2. Sometimes we would have guest appearances with people in the class if they were interested to play. And every single lunch hour, I hosted a Family Feud game, and I enjoyed them a lot. I definitely enjoyed them a lot. It was very rare that we skipped a day. We always played it. Sometimes we ran it so far into the lunch hour that I would actually take the Duotang outside, and we would finish up the game outside. And then we're a couple of days, and when I say a couple, I literally mean like barely any throughout the entire school year when I was in the 6th grade, where they said, I want to do debate club. So they ended up doing their debate club thing and skipping the Family Feud game that day. But for the most part, we were playing Family Feud like most lunch hours. So hosting was always something that I was very, very interested in. And it was shortly after that. I was in the 7th grade. I can't remember if I was 12 or 13. I think I had just turned 13. I think it was like a month after I turned 13. I remember it very, very vividly. It was my brother originally discovered Survivor. He was a casual fan, but he was just watching it downstairs, and it was the Merge Immunity Challenge of Survivor Game Changers. And when I got down there, it was between Andrea and Ty at the end, and Andrea won the immunity necklace. That was the first time that I had ever seen Survivor. So the first season that I watched was Game Changers, and I only watched half the season. And that season did make me a little bit more of a casual. I was watching it. I didn't know what a blindside was. I didn't know what the bottom meant, but it didn't sound good. When people were discussing how they were on the bottom, it definitely didn't sound good. So I was just watching it a little bit more as a casual fan. I wasn't the biggest fan of it at that point in time, but I was really enjoying watching it. I thought it was really, really cool. It was a game of the human condition and social game, and there was this strategic element to it, coupled with the challenges. So it was a little bit like American Ninja Warrior, but but with actual social aspects being part of the game, and strategy being part of the game, and it was a lot more interesting. So I was a big fan of Survivor when it first started, but I did seem a little bit more casual at that point in time because I didn't understand it as much. But as time went on, I started to get much more interested in it. I mean, Game Changers was the first season that I watched. And then later on, I was kind of like, okay, Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. I found out that was coming out, and I was like, yeah, should I watch this again? I definitely enjoyed it the last time. So I went ahead and I watched it. And that was the very first season that really got me hooked. Which, by the way, Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers, I think is a very underrated season of Survivor. I love Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. Amazing season. Nobody talks about it other than the finale. But I think it's actually a very good season from start to finish. But I really enjoyed that season. It's the season that kind of got me hooked. And once again, I would just record all of them on the VCR and watch them over and over and over again. And I would get 50 Shades of pissed whenever my mother or my brother would come down and delete an episode so I couldn't watch it again. Because I didn't have CBS All Access at that point in time. So, I mean, that was unfortunate. I mean, I wish I did have CBS All Access because later on, you could only access it as a Canadian. Or as a Canadian, you could only get seasons 32 on. But that was way after the fact. I mean, once I actually did get CBS All Access during COVID, I was able to just watch all the seasons. But I wish that I had been enrolled into CBS All Access and had the app way earlier, because then I wouldn't have been just spoiling myself, going on YouTube, rewatching the same episodes that were already on the VCR. But I was a massive fan. I mean, as massive of a fan as you can get. I mean, I was watching all the videos. I was watching all the Ponderosa videos, JPB Productions. You can see I'm all over the place. I mean, I'm on all the comment sections. You can see me everywhere. I'm literally everywhere. And it's insane that I'm just all over the place. Yeah, I was the biggest fan ever. I literally just poked a hole in the ground in my backyard and just stuck it all into it, made it this big blob of dirt really, really deep in the ground. And then I created this torch. It was a fishing rod that I got it was an old-fashioned fishing rod that I got from my grandfather. He was moving, so I stole it. And I added a little candle at the top, and then I attached it to all this other stuff. And I took this white pole, and I just zipped it onto it, and it looked like a torch. And I would use that, and I would play Survivor with myself. And I had this snuffer that I also took from him. And then I just had props. I would create my own tribal council set in the backyard. That's how big of a fan I was. When I would go camping, I would try and coerce my family into playing a Survivor game. I was trying really hard to try and get them all to play, and that was fun, but they were all casuals. They didn't understand the game. So I didn't really have a community. I knew that I really liked Survivor. I didn't really have very many people that I could talk with about it. So I was kind of looking around, and I was like, okay, like what community could I maybe get myself into or involved in? So I originally started on the Discord side. I wouldn't really call it a side, I guess, because it's not Instagram, but I was starting off by playing Discord orgs. I started that when I was 15. I wasn't amazing at the game at that point. I think there was a lack of life experience, and I was a bit of a game bot, not creating the social connections first. I actually do still kind of struggle with that in games, but it's not as bad of a circumstance. I'm more self-aware now in games than I maybe was when I first started. So I wasn't the best player in the world, but I was happy now that I had a bit of a community that I could, talk to people about Survivor with. So as time went on, we did see Virtual Survivor Season 1, which was also a big way how I got introduced into the fandom on Survivor Geek's YouTube channel. Eve won that season, Marco was the runner-up, Griffin was the second runner-up, Kyle was the fallen angel, who I am very, very good friends with now. Then there were a few other people on the cast that we would know. McGuire was also one of them. So there were a lot of people on that cast. There was 20 people. And that was where I kind of got into the fandom and sort of transitioned into the Instagram side. I don't exactly remember when it was specifically. I do know that OSC was one of the first games. I also know that Missy did run a game right at the beginning. And it really got me into the community, and it was nice to have a group of people that I had this commonality with. And I absolutely loved it. OSC, obviously, I was a 3-time pre-merger, so I wasn't that good at the game. But every once in a while, I would play a game and I would thrive at it and do well. But that was awesome when I came in, and I started doing that, and I felt like Survivor really was an escape for me. When I was 16, when I was in high school, it was challenging for me. It was very, very challenging for me. I am on the autistic spectrum, as not everybody may know, and it made it a little bit harder for me to open up and build connections with it being a very overwhelming environment. But as a whole, I'm very grateful for everything and how it turned out. But when I was 16, Survivor ultimately was a big escape for me. I absolutely loved Survivor, and I still do. So I was playing all of these games, and I was kind of like, oh, I want creative control. And I was already hosting when I would host it with my family, and I was already someone who really enjoyed hosting when I was growing up, with the Family Feud games and everything. So I was like, I want to host. And I was kind of thinking to myself, maybe I want to do it myself, but Brady, and I remember it to this day, January of 2021, or maybe it was February of 2021, I'm not entirely sure, somewhere within that range. I think it was February. I think it was February of 2021. So it was a long, long time ago. Brady, he releases on his Instagram story, I guess it was, I need people. I need to onboard some people. I need a producer. I need a challenge coordinator. I still have the video because it brings back so many memories. I should actually probably send that to Brady since we're doing this right now, creating videos on the Hub Games channel, but it'll just unlock his memories there. But I remember that, and I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. I had no idea it would last as long as it did. I had no idea we would go on until 25 seasons. And that was it. That was it. And then I joined, and then I was on production, and Brady and I had a blast doing it. So, man, it was fun the whole way through. It really was. I mean, yeah, from Zach showing up late and me making fun of him to it, to, the JKP, who else was on that season that made the season fun? It was a very fun season. Oh, yeah, we got McGuire, Coconut mauling everybody, I'm a carrot. That was kind of the beginning. That was definitely the beginning. Stalling saying I was not inactive, I was hibernating. Egypt wasn't the best season, but it introduced us to Ella, who went on to be one of the better players in the fandom. She played multiple times. She was kind of like the Boston Rob of the fandom, not of our game. But Egypt wasn't the best season. But season 12 was our all-star season. That was very good. We had some great jury speeches at the end, a lot of good blindsides. Season 13 was a vibe. It was a very, very fun season. 14 was Flip Flop, which it was an interesting theme. The season probably would have been better without it. That season introduced Lawrence, I'm sorry, Lawrence. Season 15, we had the Amina Lucas fight. That was iconic. And also Milo winning, who we thought was a very, very unique winner. Basically just lowering his threat level and using the fact that lying, saying how he didn't understand English to lower his threat level so that he could make it very far and win. Super unique winner, very good winner. And then season 16, that was considered our best season. Brady likes Legends more. I personally think season 16 is a stronger season we've ever done, because that's ultimately the point of our game, to have new players, because that's the bread and butter of the game, and to have a season that was all newbies and have it be that strong is a lot more special to us than a season like Legends, where we would have high expectations of it. And maybe those expectations wouldn't be exceeded. Whereas with season 16, those expectations were exceeded. So season 16 was an absolutely phenomenal season. We had multiple idol plays. I went to Rocks twice. Justin's That Was Cute line. And then he just whips out an idol after an idol. Nullifier was played. He played 2 idols. He got a whole bunch of people to give him fire tokens. It probably would have been better gameplay on his end if he was able to figure out a way to draw votes off of him. But the fact that he was able to coerce people to give him all those fire tokens was super impressive. This guy was a very, very impressive player. And even Nick Pellegrino at the end, he was like, I think, Justin, you deserve more votes. But yeah, Justin was kind of like the Russell Hantz that season. I mean, obviously Nick Pellegrino played way better than Natalie White in Samoa, but Justin kind of at the end, given the game that he played, it was a very idle game, very bombastic game. It would have been really cool if he won, but I was pretty sure Nick Pellegrino was going to win. Given the type of jury that was, and also I don't think Nick Pellegrino played bad. I would have voted for Nick Pellegrino over Justin. So season 16 was wild. It was a great season. Season 17 was a little bit dark, we did have a lot of fun with it. We got a lot of DM team people that season that actually were active and did care. And Kyle was also on that season, aka Jaquez, who made the season very, very fun. Season 18, Davis just dominated. Nick was really fun that season too. He provided very lively tribals. Rocky was a very similar way. Season 19, Oscar kind of dominated the season. Brody played a good, under the radar game, did what he had to do, where he was almost able to pull out the win. Joey was in complete control of a 3-person alliance the whole way through and was taken out at 5 for being a massive threat. Lorna, she also played a big game, and Lorna is one of the reasons why we host, where someone can come into a season with so low confidence and belief in themselves. And she almost came into the season and kind of looked at everybody like they were some idols or whatever. Like she would look up to everybody in the fandom. And what Hub Games provided for her is it provided a platform where she could ultimately prove herself, and she proved to be a very good player. She could have won Legends. I mean, if she was sitting at the end with AJ and Jordan, I personally would have voted for AJ, but Lorna probably wins that. And she put herself in a position where if she had played a bit better of a game and maybe had more people near the end that she could beat, she wouldn't have been seen as too much of a threat, and she also could have made it to the end and won. Season 20, I don't really need to talk much about that because there's just so much that went on. Isaiah was a game bot. Devin was super entertaining. He just brought it. It's insane and crazy that he was able to make it to the end and get through all that adversity despite putting such a bullseye target on his back, and he was able to win out. It was truly mind-blowing. And there was a lot of fun layers to the game. Jordan and AJ being treated like they weren't even on the cast. That was a good layer to have to the game. AJ continuously flying on his face over and over again. It was great to watch. Justin playing that great underdog game. We've seen that a lot from him. It's not necessarily bad social game on his part. It's that he was able to play with a lot of people that are already more integrated into the community, i.e. the good vibes people, and he was able to ultimately make do with what he had. And then who else? Kyle was on that season as well. And Jaquez played season 17, so it was the first time Kyle ever played Hub Games. Just kidding. Kyle cared a lot about the game, and him and Isaiah really did run circles for a lot of the game. It was very, very fun, and everyone was playing super, super hard. I mean, Winston was voted out relatively on the earlier side of the spectrum, but he was playing very, very hard. And it was a very, very fun season, and I definitely missed that. So things definitely went a little bit downhill after season 20. Season 21 was okay. Curtis cared a lot about the game. Dally was one of our most dominant winners ever. I would love to see Dally come back. She's basically the Kim Spradlin of our fandom, before Winners at War. That's kind of how I look at her. I am not saying that she's the best player that we've ever had, but I'm saying that she's just so dominant. We've had very few winners that's as dominant as her. In season 21, we discovered Luke. He had never played another game previously, and he filmed a lot of confessionals for us, really did care. He had a cool, calm, collective personality, and that was what I really loved about Hub Games too. We got to bring so many different people from different walks of life. Hence why, if Hub Games ever did return, which Brady said he's 38% sure it's going to come back, I miss it a lot. I would love to see it come back, and I feel like I can't really bring it back without Brady's help. So it's going to have to be can't just be a all extra journey. It has to be all in. So if we ever did bring it back, I would need his authorization and his help with things. But I miss it. That's the main reason why he hopped on. That's the main reason why I'm hopping on here. I miss it tremendously. And then season 21, who else was on that season? Will Coleman was on that season. God, we were always scared he was going to cheat in challenges. My goodness. He's one heck of a personality. He can be a little bit annoying, but he's just such a unique personality. Emma Spans wasn't very active. Frankie was on that season as well. I can sometimes forget that. Frankie, he was kind of like the Ricard of that season. It was super obvious at Final 5 he was going to go home, or like the Adam Gentry from Cook Islands of the season. At Final 5, we knew he was going home. There was no other person that could go home. So yeah, he was a little bit robbed there, but it was a very active cast. It was very nice. Mason as well. Mason was a lot of fun, and he was sent home in a very robbed manner with that that 3-group twist. He's also a very good player, and we kind of discovered him through Hub Games. He went on and played OSC twice, and he ultimately started off by playing our game. Season 22 rolled around. Connor won that season. Very cool, calm, collective winner. I had played a few games with him prior, and I always thought he was a really chill dude, and it was really cool to see him win. Colin was literally one vote away from winning the game. He had idols. He was very good at finding idols, which surprised us. He found a lot of idols. He was good. Billy, he's a very well-known person in the fandom, considered one of the better players, and it took us a long time to convince him to play, but he finally played, and he killed it. He played similarly to Jesse in Survivor 43, in my opinion. Played very, very strong. Who else from that season? Season 22 was... I remember, Marley got Sareed out. That was pretty crazy. Owen, he was one of the best strategists we've seen. If we ever did a second chance season, he'd 100% be on the ballot. Owen was a super strategic player, and he built a franchise that kind of was, I would say, Hub Games' greatest protege. I'm very proud of Owen. He created this great franchise for 21 seasons, and he kind of thinks that he's done with it. But he created a franchise, and it was very, very long. And he killed it. He absolutely killed it. So Hub Games was a very, very positive experience for me. I can talk a little bit about the other seasons. Season 23, I wasn't there for that much of it. But we literally brought back 4 captains. And we were kind of thinking to ourselves at the beginning, okay, Ella is going to onboard a whole bunch of her friends. And the others have the liberty to do so. But we're going to be the ones at the end of the day that decide who actually gets cast. Even with that notion, we still had complete control over who was getting cast. We decided who we wanted to put on that season based off of who we thought would be entertaining and good at the game. But we brought back 4 captains. Cameron, Ella, Justin, and Winston. And of those 4, one of them was just voted out immediately. Cameron was voted out first. But of those 4, 3 of them made it to the final 3. That season was a final 2, final tribal council. And 3 of them made it to the final 3. And we were kind of looking at this like, how did this happen? How do you allow this? And I don't know. I guess they do have a bit of an edge. If you actually look at the history books, before Edge of Extinction, it is baffling on seasons that mixed returning players and new players, what percentage of the time new players made it to the end versus what percentage of the time returning players made it to the end. Literally a third of all returning players that played on a season that mixed newbies and returnees, on that season that mixed returnees and newbies, they made it to the end. That's an insane stat. It's mind-boggling. I think it's 13 out of 39 before Edge of Extinction. Mind-boggling. But yeah, the returning players carried. Season 24 was ass. I'm not going to talk about it. Wasn't there for it. Brady hated it. Season 25, Isaiah was very proud of him. I didn't know if he would ever want to play again, give himself another shot. And it was me who ultimately encouraged him big time to play again. I'm pretty sure Kyle was also encouraging him. Brady was as well. And he delivered. And he finally pulled out that fandom win that we all thought he deserved so much. Because there aren't very many strategists in the fandom that are as strategic as Isaiah is. So it was really, really fun to have him pull out that first win that was very, very well deserved. And we were just waiting an eternity for that to finally happen. And we were very happy for him when it happened. Will Coleman, he was voted out in the pre-merge, and he came back, and he made it all the way to the end. Victor, as usual, the chill person that he is, goes really deep and then gets taken out near the end. People always trust him, and he's a very chill player. And Victor is, if there was one person that I would put money on as the person who could win the most seasons, if you threw him on a cast of completely new players 100 times, I feel like I would give Victor the most potential to do really, really well. Some people would maybe say someone like Davis or Nick Pellegrino or Rachel or Alexandra, who's definitely an OG. She hasn't been around in a long time, but she was also a very good player at the time. And also, there's other players too. Fisher is also pretty good. Curtis, you could throw players, Jeffrey, you could throw players like that. Andy, forgot about him. You could put players like that, and they're the type of player that could do very well on any given season with new players. I would personally give Victor that title. I think he is a very good player. Season 25, there was a little bit of complaining that season, but it was the last true season that we did before everything just went downhill. I thoroughly enjoyed Hub Games. You can clearly tell I'm smiling right now talking about it. I absolutely loved it. I loved every part of it, and it was devastating to have Meta take it down. There are so many accounts that have done worse things than we have. Maybe we were toxic in host notes. Maybe we broke some copywriting rule. I've looked at the guidelines. I don't know what we broke. I do not know what we broke. I know that very unwarned, they'll just take down accounts for no reason. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal when we lost that account because we loved Hub Games. I mean, we really, really loved Hub Games, and to lose the account like that and all that progress, and it was sad on me, but it was a lot sadder on Brady. He really took that hard because he worked so hard on those edits, and it was brutal. But it's gone. We're not getting it back. It's been deleted. I don't even know if you bribed Mark Zuckerberg that he'd be able to bring it back. That's what Brady was talking about in his video. I think it's just gone forever. I think it's just deleted. So it was very unfortunate when that happened, considering how much we truly love Hub Games. And when Hub Games ended, I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated. I don't know why Meta did that to us. There's so many other accounts, Survivor accounts, and that all got to stick around. OSC, InstaZoom, Simps, Frenzy, Polar Bear Survivor. I mean, can I just continue? Like, there's a Conquest was still there. Like, there's so many. All the other games, they all stayed. Sharky, like that's Sharky stayed. Hypnotic stayed. You know, all the games stayed, except ours, and we don't know what we did. I guess we were too prestigious, where only Meta noticed us as a Survivor knockoff game, and we got penalized for copywriting. Was that what it was? So it was very devastating. And I still love Hub Games very much to this day. I very, 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 very much miss it. So after Hub Games ended, I was kind of like, okay, I guess I got to get my life in order here and prioritize the outside world as much as possible. So anyway, I have a conversation with my mother, and she says, oh, you're passionate about coffee. You should go become a barista. So I did that for a month. Did it at the airport, hated it, quit abruptly. And then after that, I was still very, very lost in life. And then my brother, he introduced me to Andrew Tate. Before that, I hadn't really been much into it. And Andrew Tate, he was a little bit toxic for me. I think there was a period of time where he got me in gear. You know, he helped me go to the gym. He helped me how to have a good mindset. But he's very materialistic. And I looked up to him like he was this idol for no reason, really. I mean, there's a lot of other people that are better to look up to, and I feel like he kind of indoctrinated me in some negative way. But he did give me a lot of good insight along the way. Not me directly, but when I would look at his content, he gave me a lot of good insight, and I think that he was helpful at that point in time. But the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he kind of turned me into somebody that I wasn't. He kind of indoctrinated me. So after that, I became much more money hungry of a person. Right at the beginning of 2023, I had that mentality, university's dick, I'm going to escape the matrix. And I started affiliate marketing. That was the first venture I tried. It didn't work out. I had a bit of a Facebook glitch. Not everything was working out with it. I tried that for like 2 months and it didn't really work. It didn't really pop off there. And then after that, I got a sales job. I worked in financial services. And it was truly a boiler room Wall Street job. I mean, I was on the phones, 300 to 2,000 cold calls every single day, prospecting, cold call sales. And I was around a lot of really money-hungry guys. And that's all they really talked about. You know, maybe they would go out drinking, they would go to the gym, they would be chasing money, but they devoted a lot of time to working. And obviously they would care a lot about, you know, being free and one day traveling the world and, you know, working hard in the office until one day they can just leave and be free, you know. And I felt like I was a little bit too nice for that job. I felt like I was a little bit more down to earth than a lot of other people were. So ultimately, I ended up leaving that recently. And as of now, I would like to either go into film school or clinical psychology. If I went into like film and production school, it would be a little bit more pointed on my end of what I would actually want to do. Because if it's not something specifically that I'm interested in at the end, I think I would rather do clinical psychology. Money is very, very important, but ultimately, as I would have people, flex their Rolex watches or claim how they really want to get a Mercedes Benz and meet their sales targets and waltz in with their Louis Vuitton belts, there was a period of time where I would really look at that as success. And I'm realizing at a certain point in time that success ultimately, happiness is a super vague term to use. Peace of mind, loving what you do, not being indoctrinated by other people that will try and tell you what type of life you're supposed to live, what type of life you're supposed to enjoy. Everyone's different, and you do need to beat to your own drum and genuinely figure out who you are, have some self-awareness, and that can ultimately lead to having a little bit more of an idea of who you are. So I racked up a lot of dough when I was working at Premium Merchant Funding. It was a financial services company. I also did Toastmasters during their public speaking class, which helped me with my communication skills. So I was money hungry for a very long time. But when I see all these people flex, all these things that are materialistic and everything, what I've realized is you need to not put up a face and be true to who you are all of the time. And at that point in time, I really wanted money, and I think that it's provided me in a good, stable situation where I'm a little bit more stable right now to kind of do what I want and take a different direction and different path that's more optimal for me. But Hub Games costed me literally nothing. And I think that it's very foolish in life to abandon the things that you love. And societal expectations will expect you to, drive a Lamborghini and traveling all over the place. But it's also extremely important to do what you love. Dot, dot, dot.